I know it's been a while since I've done a video on this channel, and that's not because I haven't had anything to say. It's just because I've been sick. I've had some throat problems, probably from, I don't know, you can use your imagination and come up with something appropriately dirty and horrendous to attribute to me. I kind of want to talk about Star Wars. I know that doesn't sound all that thrilling to a lot of people. When I was a kid, Star Wars was great. Everyone loved it, and now, because of the travesty of the prequels, I think there's a lot of animosity towards the whole brand name, and that's what it's really become, a brand name. You know, George Lucas is like Calvin Klein. He's peddling underwear. I want to talk about the mythological structure of the first Star Wars trilogy as compared to the mythological structure of the prequel trilogy. The first Star Wars trilogy, it really gave our society a new mythological journey, a new way of informing the way we live our lives, which is what myths are for. They're symbols that are supposed to communicate information to us. It's supposed to tell us how we should be, what we should admire, how we should conduct ourselves, what our standards of honor, or whatever word you prefer, ought to be. The original Star Wars trilogy does this, and you know, a lot of people will say it borrows very heavily from older myths, and that's fine, because you know, that's how mythology evolves. That's how it expands and encompasses more and upgrades itself. The prequel trilogy, it really kind of, well, it's not a modern mythology. It just felt like hollow commercialism. It didn't really have the heart and soul of the original trilogy, which is, you know, why so many people who were once Star Wars fans have turned away from it, and why George Lucas has such a soiled reputation. And he should. You know, setting aside Joseph Campbell's monomyth structure, we'll just look at a more basic mythological structure of the journey of the hero, and we'll just break it down into three parts. And I think these three parts are almost universal attributes to any hero, you know, whether it be mythological or just contemporary hero fare that we see in, you know, whatever insipid summer blockbuster is coming out, you know, this week. And that the structure is: part one, the hero discovers a malevolent force, or a force that presents adversity. Number two, the hero goes on a journey. It's not always a journey out into the lands or whatever. Sometimes it's an inward journey, you know, or you know, it's a journey in the form of struggles to accomplish something. It's a journey of learning. The hero learns something on this journey. That's the purpose of the journey. To learn, to grow, to become what he needs to be to fulfill step 3, which is overcoming adversity, defeating adversity. And if you look at the original Star Wars trilogy, almost every character fits the bill for hero. Almost all of the protagonists, I mean. Luke Skywalker, obviously, he's just, you know, a humble farm boy, essentially. And he wants to go off and fight the Empire. He recognizes them as a force for tyranny, but he really feels like he doesn't have the power to do that until he meets Obi-Wan Kenobi, who basically gives him the means to embark on this journey, which spans the entire trilogy, wherein he learns the skills that he needs to topple the Empire. You know, we'll also look at Han Solo. Han Solo is, a smuggler and a rogue. He really doesn't care about the Empire. I mean, he obviously has no love for the Empire because they clamp down on his smuggling operations. But he also goes on a journey. He goes on a journey and he discovers a more noble side of himself. He learns to set aside self-interest and dedicate himself to something larger. And he too plays an integral role in the downfall of the Empire. But if we look at the prequel trilogy, we're utterly without heroes. First of all, we don't have a clearly defined adversary for any of our protagonists. They know there's some malevolent force out there, but they don't really ever seem to recognize until it's far too late just how powerful this force is. They don't really seem to ever have any real understanding of how strong their enemy is. And they never even know who their enemy is until the latter half of the last film in the trilogy. So we don't really have a clearly defined adversary. And then, when it comes to going on the journey, sure, everyone seems to go on a journey, but they never really learn anything that helps them overcome the adversity, because actually the villains win. Anakin doesn't learn anything. He ends up turning to the dark side, horribly disfiguring himself and becoming Darth Vader. Obi-Wan ends up failing to save Anakin. Yoda fails to defeat the Emperor. And I guess that George Lucas was maybe going for some kind of tragic hero thing, but I think that without the first part of the hero myth, you can't really have the tragic hero. I think the adversary has to be clearly defined early on in order for the tragic hero to work, the hero who fails to overcome adversity. And then, through his failure, the audience is somewhat inspired. It seems like he gives in just as easily as pie. He betrays everything that he was trained to love for the stupidest reasons possible. So even as a tragic hero kind of story, it doesn't work. And then it occurred to me there's only one character in the prequel trilogy who actually follows the hero structure. And that's Senator Palpatine, the Emperor. He has a clearly defined adversary. The Jedi Council and the Senate and the entire government. He views his not being in power as something of an injustice. He goes on a journey. He builds the clone army. He narrowly escapes detection, even when he's face to face with his enemies on a daily basis. He manipulates and turns a promising young Jedi into an evil Sith that will do his bidding. That's his journey. And at the end, he overcomes his enemies and becomes the ruler of the entire galaxy. Remember when the reviews of Revenge of the Sith were coming out, and everyone was saying that, I think his name is Ian McDiarmid, but I might be getting it wrong. Everyone was saying, oh, his was the only good performance in the entire movie. I think maybe that's because he actually conformed to the hero myth. I think that's what made him actually interesting. Because he was actually the most sympathetic character. He was actually the one who was legitimately struggling against adversity, going on that journey of knowledge, and legitimately overcoming his adversity. And, he may be a twisted and evil character with malevolent intent, but he still followed the journey of the hero, and I think that's why people liked him. People respected him. People found his character fascinating and identifiable. So interestingly enough, I don't actually blame the failure of the prequel trilogy on a bad story. I blame it on focusing on the wrong people. It really should have focused more on Palpatine's rise to power, because he's the interesting character, and really, it's rightfully his story.